Well, last night we finished out chapter 15 in 1 Corinthians, and Paul opened up this section with an interesting question that the Corinthians had about resurrection. They asked him, how are the dead raised, and with what kind of body do they come? Kind of setting the platform for Paul to answer their questions about resurrection. And in asking this question, the Corinthians knew two things. One, they knew that Jesus had done some resurrecting miracles during his ministry. And two, the Corinthians knew a little bit about agriculture. They knew that something that had flesh and bones, when it was put into the ground, whether it was an animal or a person, that when it's buried in soil, that eventually it decomposes, flesh falls off bones, bones are separated. Basically, a body isn't a body anymore. And so what they're asking Paul is, look, we get that Jesus has resurrected people from the dead, but we also know that bodies decompose when they're in the ground. So when the resurrection happens, what kind of body is going to come up out of the ground? Are we going to see skeletons walking around the earth? Is that going to be our resurrected bodies, just like skeletons? And what Paul says here is absolutely not. He says that Jesus has actually created for you individually a special resurrected body. It says here that to each seed sown is each its own body. And so the beautiful thing about a resurrected body is that yours is going to look different than mine, but they're individually designed by God. What a sweet thing that we each get our own glorified body. So we each get our own body, but what are they like? What are they going to be like? Well, we don't know what they're going to look like, but we know a couple of things about them from this text. Paul says 4 things about our resurrected state. He says that our resurrected bodies will be imperishable, that they'll be raised in glory, raised in power, and that they will be spiritual bodies. And so just a beautiful thing that the bodies we have now identify with Adam, and they're perishable. They're sown in dishonor and not in glory, and they're natural bodies. But our resurrected bodies identify with Jesus, and they're imperishable. They're raised in glory, raised in power, and they're spiritual. So we know what they're going to be like, but when and how are we going to get these bodies? And Paul doesn't go on to give us a full detailed outline or even a timeline of when this will happen or how it will happen, but he actually kind of answers this with an abstract and says, actually, it's a mystery when we'll have these bodies and how we'll have them. But he does say a couple of things about it, and he says that in a moment's notice, whether you're dead or alive, whether you're 6 feet under the ground or you're sitting at your desk checking your Facebook, no matter what state you're in, Jesus, when he comes back, when he resurrects his followers, it'll happen in a moment's notice, and we will all be raised. And so we don't know when that's going to happen, but all we know it's going to happen in a moment, and we're going to hear a trumpet sound, and that means that Jesus is coming back. He's home. He's grabbing us and taking us with him. And what Paul says about this resurrected state, about Jesus coming back, is that it fulfills some prophecy that was spoken of in the Old Testament. Back in Isaiah, it said that death will be swallowed up in victory. And basically what that means for us is the people who are on earth, who are living, breathing in these natural bodies, when the resurrection happens, we'll be resurrected in our state, and we won't experience death. So death is swallowed up in victory. And then it says, "O death, where's your victory? O death, where is your sting?" Referring to those followers of Christ who are in the ground, who for now it seems that death has owned their life. They are separated from life here on earth. They're with God right now, but in the resurrection, death will have no more dominion over them. It'll have no sting on their life, and they will be made new, raised to life with these new bodies. And Paul ends this chapter with a real encouragement to us that Jesus has won the war, that victory is found in him over death, and that this should cause us to be immovable, steadfast, and it should cause us to put our heads down and do the work of the Lord and to know that it's not in vain. And this is good to know because oftentimes in life we have our friends, our family experience death. We experience death, sickness. And what this causes us to know is that, man, God is coming back. Jesus is coming back to reign. He wins, and that there's life in him. And that should give us hope for today, hope for our friends who aren't believers now, that they will come to know Jesus and experience resurrection. Gives us hope for those of our family members or friends who have passed away, who have experienced death or the pain of sin, and that they'll be resurrected in new life if they chose to follow Jesus in this life. And so, man, what great hope we have today that Jesus will resurrect us and give us new life in him forever in eternity with him. And I pray that that blesses your heart today as well. God bless you.